Okay, I'm Matt with Kewlmetal, and I want to show you how to assemble your Kewlmetal air ride bracket for your Can-Am Spyder. And when you get your kit, you should have this bracket, your valve body assembly, and this is the large pump. This is the pump that should come with your Spyder air ride. Now, first thing you want to do on your pump is just loosen this little clamping screw a little bit, just enough so you can rotate your pump in the clamp, because you're going to want to rotate it for the Spyder installation. This is the hardware that should come in your kit. There's two short quarter 20 screws with washers, a longer quarter 20 hex head bolt with a couple of washers, and there's two 8mm hex heads with washers. Okay, take your valve body. This is the top of the valve body. It's got the exhaust port on it right there. Generally it'll have some color-coded stickers for your air connections, and then on the bottom there's some wires here. We're not going to mount to the bottom of that plate because the wires are usually in the way of mounting it flush to the plate. So we're going to mount this side of the top side of the valve body to the plate. And when you mount that plate on there, you're mounting the valve body through the big hole in the middle, and the bend goes down just like that, just like you see there. Now what you want to do is put a couple of washers. This is a quarter 20 threaded hole in the middle of your valve body. So we're going to screw into that, but we want to put a couple washers here so we create a little space between the valve body and the plate, and that's so that we don't block that air exhaust port for the dump valve. So I'm going to take and put two washers there on top of the valve body, and then one flat washer under the quarter 20 hex head, and then we're just going to go ahead and screw right through there like that. Now our pump just has two slots there, and these short quarter 20s just mount through those slots into these pre-tapped holes in your plate, and it mounts at a bit of an angle. So just put your pump on top of the plate there, and get your quarter 20s with a flat washer underneath them started in those pre-tapped holes in your mounting plate. And we're just going to start them. We're not going to tighten it all the way down, just hand tighten everything for the time being until we mount it up in the Spyder. And then once again, this should be just loose enough so I can rotate my pump. And then when we get everything final positioned in the Spyder, we're going to take this one bolt off here and slide the pump out, and then we're going to tighten up our valve body. Then we're going to put the pump back in and put that bolt back on when it's installed in the Spyder. Now these two 8mm with a washer are what's used through these holes to mount to your Spyder, and it mounts inside the right rear cover, and I'm going to show you that on the Spyder in another little video segment. And it mounts just like that with the pump on top and the valves on the bottom. And these are the right rear passenger foot peg mount bolt holes that those are going to go into. And once again, we'll show you that on the Spyder here in a minute. Okay, now in order to install your air ride on your Spyder, this Spyder already has an air ride installed on it, so I'm not going to go through the removal step by step of the old shock. Basically there's two bolts. There's a bolt on the top and the bottom. Obviously you need to support the weight of the Spyder underneath and get all the weight off of the rear wheel before you can pull that shock out of there. I've got some little scissor lifts or whatever. You're going to have to use some kind of a lift or a jack underneath your Spyder to do that. Some wood blocking or what have you. Obviously make sure your Spyder's got wheel chocks and it's all secure before you start doing that kind of stuff. Okay, so in order to install your air ride, we need to remove this right rear cheek panel, and in order to remove that panel you need to remove this front panel. At least you got to get the front screw out of the back panel. It's easier just to take the panel off. It's really just 4 screws, the 1, 2, and then there's 2 on this panel, on the front panel, that go into the back panel. Then there's another screw underneath there, There's 2 pins up underneath the rear seat. I've got the Corbin seat on this Spyder, but you just have to lift up your stock seat to access those 2 pins. And then to take off your rear inner fender, basically there's 6 torque screws, 6mm torque screws. Just pull those 6mm torque screws out, and then when you disconnect the right rear panel, you're going to have to unplug your turn signal with these connectors right here, which is real easy to do. They just pop off with their little catch, and then put your panels aside. And as you can see, right underneath here, right behind your fuse box, is where we mount your pre-assembled pump and valve body for your Spyder. And it mounts, like I said, the 2 8mm bolts that hold this rear passenger peg in place that go in right here. Now our kit has some longer bolts to accommodate the thickness of the plate. Pull out the stock bolts, put our 2 replacement bolts in there, and bolt up that plate in this position you got right here. And basically that's it. That's where you're mounting your valve body and your pump. Now you can see the angle that I've got the pump turned down to. It fits nicely in the cheek of the plastic back there on your Spyder. And there's a good video on how to wire up and connect all your air connections on this, as well as how to bench check your system. So you should watch that video as well. And the installation of the shock, of course, is really very straightforward. Just simply reuse the stock bolts that came off of your stock shock, and then you can see the Kewlmetal shock bolted in place of your stock shock. And then you can see the bottom airline right here for the back pressure, and the top airline coming out right here for the primary pressure side. And basically that's it.